Well, we are really pleased to have two folks with us today. Ivy Frignoca is the Casco Baykeeper, and we also, since we're focusing a little bit on the joint work between waterkeepers and policymakers, we've invited Lydia Blume. Lydia Blume is a state representative from Maine for House District 5, and that's in the town 3. Pardon me. House District 3. And so Lydia is on the ground at COP. So we've asked her to join us for this little dialogue, and she's doing great work. So we'll hear about that in a second. So Ivy, tell us what your top line concerns are related to COP26, what you want to see out of this COP26, and how you and Lydia are working together to drive change.
Sure. Lydia and I have been working together to drive change for a number of years now. And what we really want to see is action, not words. We want to know action and commitments, firm commitments to act. And being a waterkeeper, we're very focused on acting in our watershed and looking for solutions to problems at our level, and knowing that that is part of like a bigger whole, a bigger solution. So that is really our focus, because we know that the climate emergency that we're facing can't be solved by us alone, particularly in Maine, where our entire population is 1.3 million people.
So what are the greatest challenges you face for climate change in your watershed, Ivy?
So some of the biggest challenges we face are obviously, a big thing that needs to happen is we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere, and Maine can't do that alone. So we need to do that as part of regional collaboratives and through working on national and international solutions. And that's why we're so glad to be part of the Waterkeeper Alliance and tie into those kind of networks. So that's a really big challenge, is Maine can't solve a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions alone. A lot of what we receive comes from out of state. The second is the solutions that we're looking for rely on projections of future conditions, because we know everything is changing and changing quickly. So we can't just rely on data from the past. We have to figure out how the bay might look into the future and then help it be resilient. So we're studying very much the effects of ocean acidification. We're looking at sea level rise projections, increased storm surge, trying to figure out what our bay may be facing and how we can help it adapt. And that is where the focus of our solutions is. And that is how Lydia's work and my work have been part of a voluntary statewide network that's looking at ocean acidification and draws together government and private groups that are working on the science and policy recommendations. And Lydia and I are also serve together on Maine Climate Council. She actually sits on the Climate Council that developed the Maine Won't Wait Climate Action Plan, and I played a big role on the Coastal and Marine Working Group of that plan, and have since started an Ocean Climate Collaborative to carry out some of the recommendations of the Coastal and Marine Working Group.
That sounds great. So Lydia, you're here. You've been here since Sunday, I think, and now you're leaving on Thursday. You were on a panel today, so tell us about that panel. Really eager to hear how you and Ivy work together as on a collaborative basis, sort of a policy waterkeeper, collective to see what can be done for Maine and your constituency.
Working with scientists in Maine, including Ivy, it really has revealed how important and how deep our scientific community is in Maine. It's very impressive, and we were able to so quickly put together that Maine Climate Council report. When you think about it, the scientists produced a 375-page report, their science and technical report. And all the working groups took that information in making their recommendations. And so I find, first of all, that's a wonderful thing to have, is to be able to work with these scientists and represent them. in policy. And, you know, science informing policy is extremely important. And I feel like I'm not the scientist, but I appreciate the science and respect it and want to see it in the policy. So that's really how we work together. That's what I've tried to do. And I just want to also say another thing that I'm seeing here is the emphasis on nature-based solutions. It is extremely encouraging to see that that's the emphasis. It's not on hardscaping and things like that. It's about using natural solutions, and that's encouraging because that's something that we're going to find much easier to do in Maine because we have such a natural backdrop to everywhere in the state, and less people, as pointed out by Ivy. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged that there's going to be a lot of collaboration with other areas as to what the best solutions are. And I also see, you know, that this is organizations like the organizations I'm involved with here, the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, is also a bipartisan caucus that we can exchange ideas. Already, we're exchanging ideas. I had a panel today that was about really local and regional collaborations on carbon reduction. And the one that we have that's been involved since 2009 is RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. That, you know, with my colleague, I had a colleague from Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and there's really mixed reviews about it in the sense that it hasn't really helped reduce fracking, for example, and getting energy from gas. So we need to reinvent. We need to maybe look at it and bring it up to speed a little bit more, and adding things like social value to the price of carbon. So you have a number that raises the price instead of, it's right now it's kind of pushed down, and it's good for Maine in the sense that for every dollar we invest in RGGI, we get $2 back. And it apparently pays for about 1/7 of all Efficiency Maine's good work, which is a wonderful organization in Maine that helps with weatherization and other upgrades to consumers. So we're getting a greenhouse gas benefit from it in terms of what we do with the money in Maine, but in terms of carbon pricing, not so good. So that, and again, this collaboration and learning from other states and what Washington State is doing right now, how they've really taken a carbon pricing scheme, and it is everybody in Washington State, every business is, no one's exempt, where RGGI is just for power plants, for example. So again, I think that the states are leading. The states, the more we do as the states, everyone's come up to me as well. It says, oh, Maine passed the extended producer responsibility bill, the first in the nation. This is what we need to do as states, is influence each other and hopefully ultimately influence the federal government to help us. You know, we're on a good trajectory in Maine. We've taken something and turned it around very quickly in the last 2-3 years. It's been really incredible.
Yeah, I really applaud that. That sounds great. And the way you and Ivy are working together could be a model for other watersheds, other water keepers around the world, because policy is so important. You know, we're scientists. We're largely scientists. We work to get information out about what's going on in our watersheds, but we can't forget the policy angle of it. It's part of what Obama was saying yesterday, how important it is to work through the system as well as working out of the system. I love what Greta's saying, and I love the urgency she's calling for, and the demand to shape up, to jolt the delegates into some kind of action. I think that's really, really necessary. But what you guys are doing is really methodical and consistent and impactful. So
yeah, Casey, just to drive that point home, I think what Greta was saying and the youth of today are like, there's no excuse. We need to act no matter what. So even before Maine was in a position where we had government leadership, we stepped in, people outside of government stepped in and created this voluntary network to carry forward the research and make policy recommendations. And that set a foundation for the Climate Council when Maine was ready to pass a bill and begin this climate work. So the message that we would leave are, you can do this even if you have no money and no mandate. That MOCA collaborative that we set up has gained national attention as a way to not make an excuse. There's a problem. We need to act on it and just find the way to do it and just do it. And that's where go Greta and go everyone else who's pushing us to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the prospect is a little grim at the moment, I gotta say, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't fight and fight harder. We have to actually push harder than we're currently pushing. Despite the gloom and doom that we might be facing, we have to just push through and get some of this going. That sounds good. Do you have any more panels that you're going to conduct or sit on, Lydia, this week?
No, I'm done with that for now. But I'm attending as many as I can, and learning how to navigate all this, because they're trying to also nothing's on paper, so you really have to find it either on the internet or walk around and see what time things are happening. But it's a very interesting gathering. I'm certainly learning a lot, and again, those overarching themes that I mentioned earlier, of the urgency and the youthful involvement and the youth being told that, yes, we are listening. I just think that that's going to be that's a helpful thing. And so the next thing I want to do is I really want to focus more on climate communication, understanding how best we can involve more people. And I think it has a lot to do with using the right words, like social value. And environmental justice rings very true to a lot of people as well. That's been another push here, by the way. Environmental justice.
Yeah, we found some inadequacies just in the organization of the COP. There's no central board to go and see what the programs are in all over the place. It's maddening to try to figure out what's going on. We're 7 different programs, streams of programs, and there's no one place to go and see what's going on a given day. That's infuriating. I also think they miss an advantage to allow more exchange between the students and the delegates. It's really a sort of a inside the Citadel and outside the Citadel, and I think that's just wrong. I wish there were some way. None of them have badges, but they wish they would go outside and just have a discussion with these kids, or an online discussion. So I think those are sort of failings of the COPs, and we'll see whether anything meaningful comes out of it. We've made some progress, but whether anything meaningful comes out of the conference, I think still remains to be seen.
Yeah, Lydia, that's a really good point. I think we should bring that home, like making sure that here we're listening to those voices that are outside of the room. You know, we're privileged to have seats at the table in the climate conversations, but I know we've made efforts, but maybe we need to double back and make even more efforts to make sure we're listening and involving youth.
Very true.
Other voices.
It's for our mental health. I mean, it's for their mental health.
So thank you, Ivy. How are the lobsters doing? Are they affected by sea level, by temperature rise? What's that industry like?
Yes, so the lobsters continue to shift further north and further out to sea because the temperatures are warming. There are times when it's much warmer and they're molting earlier, so that hard shell season, which is more lucrative for our lobstermen, that is changing. And as the water's warm, we expect that there will be more shell disease in the lobsters, the prevalence of that. The other impact that we're seeing is that as the water's warm, it's having an effect on the copepods that feed the juvenile lobsters. And So there are, it's stressful even for the lobsters at their very young stages. What took before for them to mature is changing.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing even incremental changes in Southwest Florida where we are. Even incremental changes have a monumental impact on our
Yes.
biosphere. So, and we're looking at, you know, if I think it's going to be hard to hold to 1.5, which is 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. And if we go above that, it could be 3 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a huge, huge change. And it'll bring all kinds of, you know, it'll create tectonic shifts in our weather patterns and in our droughts and fires and whatnot. So we're all in this. We're fighting. We're you know, we're fully aware of the challenges, but we're undeterred in our passion to apply ourselves. And really pleased with all the water keepers we've met this week and their commitment to these issues. And thank you, Lydia, for your work in this domain. And Ivy, keep going. It sounds like you're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Casey.
Take
On
care.
we- On we go, folks. Have a great week, Lydia, before you go home.
Thanks,
talk to you
Lydia, for joining us.
We'll talk to
We'll
you
see
soon,
when
Ivy.
we get back. See you,
Thank you.
Ivy.
Okay, bye, Lydia.
Thank you so much.
Bye.